Hello, welcome to the third update for my home game engine project. This is just a project I'm sort of doing to learn, explore, understand and improve things that I do both in my professional life and things that I've sort of missed along the way. What I've done, what I need to show you first is just some better screenshots of the images from the last video, which was recorded on my laptop and awfully bad. So what I was showing you was that the AVL tree, I could output actual tree graphs from it. These were the actual trees. If we read this AVL tree that has balanced itself, I inserted in whatever order. So we got the root of 10 and C was the value. So the index was 10, the payload was a C. It could have been anything because that's how my system works. Then somewhere along the line, a 15 with a D was inserted. That would have gone into the position where we now see E. We see it down here. It has gone to the right because it's greater than a 10. Balancing it up, it probably left it there. Inserting the 20 would probably then make the 15 be the root, the 10 be the left, and the 15 be the 20 be the right. Sorry. Inserting the A, we would have then rebalanced again and moved everything around, and we'd have had perhaps the 10 become the root, with the 15 and the 20 balanced as single layers here at first rank, and the A on the left, and then B would have likewise been split the other way down. But as you see, this is actually correctly balanced, that we've got 10C, and then we go to 5A, and then we can see that 6B has gone to the right here. It's gone on its right hand side, and ditto the 20 comes down, and then the 15 has gone on the left hand side. So this is a balanced AVL tree, and there's a lot of discussion on using GraphViz and the dot language on making things stay left and right. You can clearly. So these are the null pointers, that's nothing there. So what happens is this is used in my entity component system. I have a packed storage array, which is what the pointers point to, and then I have this sparse index to link me each item. And the idea is that the lookups remain fast no matter what you do. So this is the same tree balanced after multiple inserts and deletions. We could see 40, then 20, 25 goes to the right, then 40, and then 50 with no children to the right there. Sorry, to the left and to the right. What else do we see? Multi-remove and inserts. This is the same tree again, but we've reinserted 22 and 42. So these have gone between 20 and 40 and 25. So these are balanced. So we've got 20, 22, 25, 40, 50, 52 as we parse the tree, which is really nice to see. I've got a bit of a cold. What I was going to show you as well is just some of the structure of the engine, because the way I have things set up is that there are these individual modules, and each module is basically covered by a piece of CMake. So I can include the base or the ECS, or just the GUI parts, or the input system, or the networking system, or the messaging system, etc., 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 just as I want them. And this is really quite flexible. It's far more flexible than doing it a different way in CMake. There are many ways of dividing the CMake pattern up, but you'll see that there are no CMake lists in here. That is a conscious decision by me. All the CMake just lives in here. So the CMake list for the actual product is in its own separate folder. And you've probably seen my generator, and how my generator works is it's a wrapper for CMake, and what this can do is it can parse this one folder and have all the possible projects that I can generate in here. And the project I'm going to show you that's been part of my rework is both the generator and the chat system. I've written the chat system now. This is very basic, but it works. How would I build the chat system? Well, I don't need IMGUI, don't need the physics, don't need SDL, don't need OpenGL. I do need the networking. I want the logging to go to console, and critically, I want to skip moving logs. So my logging works by going to the logs folder, and every new log that gets created when they run moves the old log into old. But if you're all running from the same runtime resources directory, which is my runtime data directory, then only one project can move the logs. There will be a problem that the first thing you load will move the logs and create its current log file. The second thing you launch would try and move a file that's in use, and you get a problem. So I just skip moving the logs. These are all configured at compile time. I don't need to do anything. I literally just remove the copy log code by doing this. And I am going to build on MSVC. Verbose is for how much information comes out of CMake. So if we generate verbose, you'll see there is, I can minimize that a second, there is actually loads and loads of stuff all about where the paths are, what items are being added to the libraries, what libraries we're appending to the variables, where we've found different specialities. So this is ASIMP speciality. Each and every single item, everything comes out, and you can really debug the code well. And then this is where we start defining the modules I've mentioned. So the base, we're bringing in base, we're removing Vulkan, we're removing DirectX, we're removing OpenGL, we're removing tests, we're adding base as a library. We do define networking and messaging for this because the chat system uses networking and messaging, and so on and so forth. We can skip the lib due to flat buffers. So there's a big hint of something I've done. So in libs, I have gone to flat buffers, and you can look up flat buffers. Oh, we'll look it up together maybe. Flat buffers is an efficient cross-platform serialization library for C++, C#, C, Go, Java, Kotlin, JavaScript, Lobster, Lua, TypeScript, PHP, Python, Rust, and Swift. So for programming. And it was originally created by Google for game development and other performance critical applications. I previously wasn't using flat buffers. I was using protocol buffers. And this is what I was talking, this is what I went through. I actually thought I wanted to do some parsing. I wanted to build up and see things pack and unpack. And instead I've gone with the flat buffer protocol, and I will be updating all my thinking. My schemas are currently still protocol buffers. And you will see, if we go to the right spot in the generate, we get this message. Proto should check for conformity using using conform. So because they're still protocol buffers, and I'm using the flat buffer compiler now, so that will be in tools bin flat C. In fact, is the proto C still in here? No, it isn't. So this gets run by a script that here is process messages.bat, and you'll see the similar one for here for SH for Linux, and you can see that it just calls it calls the compiler for each file it finds in the source and messages folder. So we go to source and messages. Each message goes in here. I've got one flat buffer and a couple of protocol buffers. So we're still handshaking and sending messages over the networking with the protocol values, but that will be changed soon. And I generate standard C++17 code. Now I was going to look at 23 stuff, but I've not done that yet. But these are the parameters I've gone with, and because they need to be common for flat buffers and protocol buffers, I mean, I could add conform here. I could do what it says, but I'm not yet. These will be retired. So that's a major thing for me that I have done. I've actually gone and swapped from protocol buffers to flat buffers, which took me a couple of hours, and I've reworked the generator and those batch files and the stuff that I run now. The thing that I do is I run as a pre-build step of messaging the batch file. So build events, pre-build event. We run the batch file again. That lets any file that currently exists, so any file that already exists and has therefore gone and output a generated message, it allows them to update. What it doesn't do, however, is it doesn't let new files appear, because I can't add these files into here. Now, I may get away with that because there's no CPP file anymore. They're just headers. The problem, though, is that I am trying to, well, I'm going to experiment with precompiled headers with, unified builds, Unity builds, and try and get all the headers working together. Doing that up front means they must be in here, essentially. And currently they're not. But that's by the by. That isn't even what I want to show you. So if we pop to build in the chat system, we see there's no build. I've added debug, release, and debug with symbols as options here in the build. This is a big step for me. Previously, I had XVE debug and XVE release as options here, and it hard generated just those two configurations as the only option here in Visual Studio and on the make files that you've got on Linux. Now I can actually pick between them. I think this only affects Windows, to be honest, the generator here. And I would use the CMake debug or CMake release markups on the command line to build respectively on Linux. And I only really expect to build my back end on Linux. The front end will all be Windows, or 99% of the user base will be Windows. So let's just rebuild the solution. This will take a moment. And hopefully, so we've built the networking library. I'm surprised the base library doesn't come out first, to be honest. There's the base library. And there are my two applications. So all this does is this is set in test mode. It will auto create itself and has a series of test accounts that are numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think that goes up to about 10. So if I open at least one client, the client can say hello from a client. And that goes over to the server, but it goes nowhere else. We connect another client, however, and we go, hi. And now this second client here saw hi, and this can go hello back. And it's routing it back through to the other client fairly efficiently. And the server can tell everyone to be quiet. And this just scales out however we want. This protocol is full of debug, and this is directly related to logging XVE console. So I'm telling it to log to console. These will output the logging to a log file that we've already discussed, and it will output to the console. And this is why, because I'm running multiple from the same folder, this is why we need to have the skip move log stuff. But other than that, this has been a big update. I've smoothed out a few issues with my networking. So one big issue that I actually ran into was that the async accept was receiving a single empty packet on first connect, and it took me a good couple of hours of ferreting about and looking and reading and wondering what I was doing wrong, and it just turned out to be a memory issue. I had passed in the first message to the first send as a reference, and it had gone off, and the next thing that was done asynchronously was that same message buffer was reused, and the next message started to write itself into the buffer at the exact moment that the first send was going off. The curious thing is that on Linux it was fine because it was a slightly different cadence and timing. Windows did it almost every time. You got a 0 message, and then the second message was missing its first character because this null second, this 0 went into the first byte of the message buffer at send. So it drove me a little bit mad. It was a timing issue. It wasn't helped by being on Linux, because Linux just hid it. It was only when I came to Windows, which I don't do as often as I perhaps should. It was only here that I found the issues. So that was a big issue. And then what else have I been doing? Well, I've been looking at Doxygen, starting to document my code, and I'm still working through that. Really, this shouldn't be here. It should be in the reference material or in the libs bin folder, but right now it's just there. And I'm also looking at some tools stuff. So I've got a state machine generator. I've got a terrain generator. I started a type generator, but I'm going to do away with this. You will have seen my my type definition language. That needs tidying up. So I have a actual piece of code I want to change. Where is that actually? Code generator. So this is the code generator. This is using XML as its root input. It outputs XML. It can do bits and bobs for me, but I want a more robust solution. So that's the next thing I'll be looking at. And I'm also hoping to get to a position where I'm building more of the world. So if I actually build the engine, the game, we're still at a situation where I've got the basic sky, the basic seascape, all as just flat shaded things, and I am. Oh, and I've got the animated windmill that you've seen a couple of times is still in the scene, I believe, and then some test stuff. I've got my debug shape code that will draw a debug shape whenever I want one. So set this finish. There's a lot of dead code in this. I'm looking at this as it goes past. There's a lot of dead code. I know things have got literally no code in them. So if I go into types, into size, these are all dead pieces of code that need to be rid of. I need to get rid of them, because these were early prototypes where I didn't have code gen and didn't have flat buffers, and so I needed a type for a size, which was just a width and a height. So I wrote them, and it could save itself as just like this raw sort of XML thing, and then load itself back up if I wanted to. This was a very early staging, and I have been very open to just deleting my own code, but I've kept a lot of it here. The same with location, which is another XY. I mean, they should have been derived from each other. Location, header is the same. Point was just the same almost, but these were zero index, so you could go to the left or right because 0, 0 is the center of the screen. Rectangle, very similar. So these are all things I've gotten rid of. Here's the AVL tree that I wrote. I was quite happy with this. And then I've got my tree utilities that lets me print. Printing is, if I can find it, so here we go. So you have ordering is out. So graph, the shape is circle, ordering is out. And this gives you the correct ordering left, right as you go down through a tree. It took a bit of playing about to do this, I'm sure. Yeah, so I tried fixed size, but lots of the things inside were parsing to string, and they were being quite massive and breaking things, so I removed the fixed size. So yeah, there's the output of the graph node header. So shape is circle, width is 0.7, ordering out. That's how I do it. But anyway, we're now ready to run. Up it comes. So this is part of my node editor. I'm going to be working on a node editor for doing scripting. So this is actually a constant, goes in, we multiply it by some, we multiply it by itself. This is actually the power of, and then you get a value out. This is not active right now, but this is something I'm also working on. I think I've called this out before. And I have this here is a I can't turn. This is a axis point. This is the axis, the X, Y, Z center. And then obviously you can see my windmill. And if we rise ourselves up, that isn't rise up. There we go, that's rise up. And then rotate the camera down, you can see the seascape. And obviously the sky still works as it did before. So we can go to different skies, just as we want to, whatever we like. So that's still where I am with that. I quite like the sky still. The terrain, the sea, are all things I'm going to be working on. The physics integration is coming along as well. Physics is turned off for this camera, so I will just fall through. I will just go through things. But this has a very simple collision. Is physics here? No, I didn't build with physics on by the look of it. Physics should be just here, but it's not there. So yeah. No, I did generate with physics. So there's a bug. There you go, guys. Live debugging. There's a bug. My physics didn't get added in for some reason. There should be a physics pane that comes up that lets me draw a debug cube around anything I want. So if I create a debug cube, so there are 5 debug cubes. I don't know where it's going to place it, to be honest. This is just, I know where they are. They're all directly inside. Yeah, I need to fix that as well. So what I want is some controls. They're here. Duh, I just can't see them. So if I do 10, 10 up, 10 up, and 0 there. And then make it brightish yellow. Does that appear? Should be right here. Or is 10 way up in the sky? I've completely forgotten what the scale of the windmill is. This is terrible for a video, but tell you what, you're gonna get it. Scale 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, create debug cube. This is either broken or I cannot see. Hang on a minute. Is this being stupid? No, don't know where that's going. Clearly another thing I need to triage. I have not returned to the noise texture stuff. I do want to. I want to go back to this stuff, but I've just not had time. What I'm actually thinking of doing is repurposing this display and having my own height map editor in client so that I can change the grayscale and see live updates here and sculpt, mold the terrain myself. This is because as good as the random generation has been for giving me starting points, this isn't what I wanted, and mathematically it's becoming more of a burden to think about some of the features than just to draw them. Right? So drawing a shade off an edge, I could just sculpt the space myself, left click, right click, select a factor, how much I'd raise or lower the land around, add the smoothing in, add a gradient line, draw a line, and then I can even directly click from a palette and paint the expected texture on live in the client in IMGUI and get things done. So that's where I'm at. This has been a bit rambly, I do apologise, but there's been a lot going on over quite a fair bit of time. So that's the end of Tech Update 3. There's a hell of a lot of other stuff happening, and I hope you join me over Christmas for a few more videos. I'm not promising that. but it is what I plan to do. Speak to you all soon.